Hi, my future Motios. So, firstly, I would like to thank you all for giving such a good response to this second edition of my book, CA Final Audit book named Sampoorna, and really thank you for that. And I received many requests from my South Indian friends, and they wanted me to bring lectures in English also. So, finally, the wait is over, and here I am with my first revision lecture of audit of PSU. And when I say it revision lectures, please don't go with the name, because I'll be covering in detail 100% coverage each and every topic. You'll not find any topic missed by me. You can compare it with the study mat as well, and in fact we'll cover more than that. Only we'll also cover questions. I'll try to make you understand the topic. I'll try to also make you understand how the topic is tested in the exam, just all the questions as well. We'll cover MCQs also, and also finally I'll also try to make you learn the topic in this video itself. So slowly I'll be covering all the topics, all the important topics, all the important chapters. I'll be covering firstly other audits in the CA final audit chapters. So we'll start with audit of PSU. But before that, let me just give uh, a brief about myself. I am Yash Chandak. I qualified chartered accountancy in 2020, and after post qualification, I worked in Larsen and Toubro in internal audits and internal controls department. And meanwhile, I also cleared company secretaries and all three levels of CFA US. Um, since last 1 year, I've been in teaching, and I'm making final CA final audit really easy. I also started CA inter audit. So hope you'll like the video, your revision lectures, everything. Just like the video, and we'll start with the lecture. Firstly, like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel if you are new to the channel. Let's start with audit of PSU. So firstly, I'll talk about the weightage. Weightage is around 5 marks or around 1 to 2 marks. If at all 5-mark question is not asked, then 1 to 2 mark MCQ will definitely see in the MCQ section. So 5 marks question can be asked, and particularly in for May 2023 attempt, I'm telling you, this chapter is really important, because since last two attempts it has not yet been asked. It has not yet asked since last two attempts, and therefore I really sense that this chapter is really important for particularly May 2023 attempt. So what is so different about audit of PSUs, normal audits and PSU audit? What is so different about PSU audits? Well, if I expend something out of the public funds, then definitely it's the fund for the public, fund of the public, and therefore the authority who has sanctioned the funds, that has to be checked why the fund has to be expended in for that particular purpose. Why this why question? Normally normal audits, in company audits, can you ask why this expenditure was done? Particularly, no, yeah, of course, in some cases there are some proprietary questions also now mandatorily required by statute as per Companies Act section 143 subsection 1. Even in Caro, there are many points now come as a propriety point. Propriety means why at all, if at all that expenditure was made, why it was made. And of course, performance wise, we need to check how the funds were used, how effectively, how efficiently, whether the performance was achieved or not with the minimum of resources. Because remember, this funds are of public and for the public, right? So audit of PSU will be not only doing the financial audit, but we'll also cover compliance audit, comprehensive audit, performance audit, which I'll talk about later as we go further ahead in this chapter. So let's start with the introduction. So introduction is nothing but we're talking about public sector undertaking. PSUs, you probably might be knowing Maharatna companies, Navratna companies, right? So they are like the public sector undertaking, are fundamentally owned and controlled by the central government or any one state government or a combination of them. So these enterprises are industries supplying basic inputs to industry. Basic means like really coal, fertilizers, urea, or chemicals, metals, iron and ores. So like coal, we have Coal India Limited. For oil, we have Maharatna IOC Limited and IOCL and ONGC, right? For chemicals, fertilizers, we have FCI, Food Corporation, Food Corporation of India, no, Fertilizers Corporation of India, and heavy equipment. So these all equipments, basic necessity, these are Maharatna companies, public sector undertaking, which are also government companies. And also apart from that, some companies or some undertaking which are directly owned and covered, controlled by the government itself, like railways, or let's say postal services. These are governmental undertakings, even if not the companies. So categories for categorization of organization of PSUs, you'll see departmentally managed undertakings which form part and parcel of the government activity itself. Let's say departmental activity I was saying was Indian Railway, Postal Services, Security Printing, Canteen Stores Department. You might have known in your city also there are so many canteen stores where this army and everything, the food and everything you can buy from their canteen stores department, not like the food but the ration daily needs and that. And then the government companies of course, and the deemed government companies which we'll cover in this lecture in 2 section 2 clause 45 of the Companies Act 2013. And then the corporations like LIC, UTI, GIC and all these corporations. So framework for government audit, so we have to know deeply how section 245 is framed of the Companies Act, which talks about the definition of a government company. So government company is any company in which 51% or more, that is more than equal to 51%, more than equal to 51%. Remember, subsidiary is more than 50%, but if I talk about government company, then it is more than equal to 51% of the paid up share capital is held by either central government or any state government, or partly by central government and partly by one or more state government. And it also includes a company which is a subsidiary company of such a government company. So that is the government company definition. So out of this definition, let me ask you some question, whether you can answer it or not. Let's say a company in which a company in which central government is holding 51%. Central government is holding 51%. Whether this A Limited will be a government company? Yes, it will be a government company. But this A Limited is holding 50.5%, 50.5% in B Limited. Then whether this B Limited will also be a government company? Whether this B Limited will also be a government company? Yes, because it is a subsidiary of government company. It is a subsidiary of government company, and therefore government company only. And therefore government company only. And thirdly, let me ask you this question. What do you say if central government is holding 30% in this company A Limited, and another company B Limited, which is a government company is holding 30% more? So now what will be your answer be? Comment down what will your answer be if central government is holding 30% and B Limited government company is also holding 30%. What will your answer be, whether this A Limited is a government company? A Limited in which central government is holding 30% and B Limited is also holding, B Limited is a government company and it's also holding 30%. So whether it's a subsidiary company of government company? No. Whether it's a subsidiary or 51% or more shareholding is of government? No. Still whether this will be a government company, the answer probably you will say is no. But let me tell you, answer will be, it will be government company, and the appointment will be done by CAG, and section 139 subsection 5 and 139 subsection 7 that you might be knowing will be applicable as far as government companies applicability is concerned. That will only be applicable to this company also, because it will be a deemed government company. Although what we were talking about, this deemed government company are in the Companies Act 2013, there is no such classification of deemed government companies. Deemed government companies, there is no such section for deemed government companies. Companies Act 2013, it used to be 1956 Act, section 619B. It used to be 1956 Act. I'll tell you in detail. This clarification has also come, whether section 139 subsection 5 and 7, section 139 subsection 5 and 7, will it be applicable to section 61B, 619B Companies Act 1956 section, which was deemed government companies, whether it will be applicable. And the clarification was issued, yes, it will be applicable. And in the clarification, just read the first 2 points: the central government and one or more government companies. If 51% or more combination, if 51% or more combination is done through what, either state government or central government, or completely by central government or completely by state government, or by central government and one or more government companies, or by state government or one or more government companies. So you can see here, 51% or more was held by central government or one or more government companies, then that will be covered as a government company only. And section 110 subsection 5 subsection 7, 143 subsection 5, 6, 7, everything will be applied in this case also. I hope you are getting this. Please do not get confused if at all in detail they ask you the question like this. One more important thing what I want you to write down here is, if in case of company with, in case of company with differential voting right, what, with differential voting rights, then paid up share capital shall be construed as shall be construed. Just write it down here as an explanation. It's not given in study mat, but it's given in the definition of section 245 as an explanation. It was added in my attempt, so that is why I remember this far. In case of company with differential voting rights, paid up share capital shall be construed as total voting power. Total voting power. So what I was saying, so generally, for a government company, generally we see what equity. So central government, let's say central government is having, central government is holding in A Limited only and only 40%, not more than equal to 51%. But A Limited has differential voting rights shares issued. So differential voting rights share issued. So central government has voting rights of 60%. But so voting right is how much? 60%. But paid up share capital is how much? Equity paid up share capital is how much? 40%. So whether A Limited will now be a government company or will now be a government company? Yes, because where differential voting right shares are issued in a company and the government has a 51% or more voting power, voting rights, then also will constitute paid up share capital as voting power, voting rights, and therefore A Limited will be a government company. Just note it down, this explanation. In case of company with differential voting right, paid up share capital shall be considered as total voting power. Although this is not given in your audit, but still it's an explanation which seems to be an important, can be asked in MCQs, and therefore you should know this. So we covered all the things in detail about the government companies. Now let's talk about the constitution and the powers of the CAG and everything. So in India, we'll see audit is done by whom? CAG, which we say Comptroller and Auditor General of India, through the Indian Audit and Accounts Department. This department is generally the department, the main department, which does the appointment of CAG, I mean, which gives the training to AAO. AAO is Assistant Accounts Officer, which is a position held by all the different individuals in different states, and then from out of this one will come out as a CAG, and the training they have to go for 3 months training. So IAAD is an important department in the audit of government companies, in the audit of PSUs, in this particular important chapter, audit of PSU. IAAD, Indian Audit and Accounts Department. So what are they saying is the Constitution of India gives a special status to CAG. They The CAG has a really huge power in his hands and contains provision with regards to his power, duties, safeguards, everything according to him. The provisions in the Constitution itself is given. In the Constitution itself, the Constitution Article 148 to 151, it clarifies about the role of CAG. So Article 148, appointment of CAG by the President. CAG appointment is done by the President of India and can be removed by only and only by the Parliament in case of incapacity. So only on the proven grounds of proven misbehavior, special procedure has been laid out, and there is a special procedure which has not been mentioned, but two third two third majority is required even in the Parliament to remove CAG. That is what the power of CAG is, and salary and condition of service is to be determined by the Parliament itself. Article 149 deals with the perform duty and exercise power in relation to the accounts of the union and states, and CAG duty, power and condition of service act 1971. This is the act which defines all the function and powers in detail of the CAG. And Article 150 then says that President will prescribe the form in which the accounts will be forwarded to the union and to the state. So generally CAG will give its report, and also the format of the accounts, everything the president will prescribe on the advice of the CAG only. It will prescribe. So president takes the advice from CAG. See, that is what 150 is saying. And then the Article 151 will say what audit reports of the CAG relating to accounts of central and state should be submitted to the president or governor of the state. So central government accounts, central PSU, which we talk like central undertakings, those accounts, audit reports of those accounts, audit accounts, and everything done by the CAG shall be submitted to the president, and in case of state government, that shall be submitted to the governor, and central will be forwarding it to the Parliament, to the president himself directly. And for the state government undertaking, state government accounts, the audit report shall be submitted to the governor of the state, particularly in the state legislative assembly. And then they also mentioned that the 6 years term, the CAG term is of 6 years, not mentioned. Do not forget, it's not 5 years, it's 6 years plus one, 6 years and up to the age of 65 years, whichever is earlier. And then at any time, resignation letter can be given by the CAG to the president. To the president, he has to resign. And Act also assigns the duties regarding the audit to be followed by CAG. So we'll see how many, like the number of organizations which are subject to the audit by CAG, who all are required to be governed by CAG. Audit is governed by CAG. So these include all the union and state government departments, like which you talk about, like Indian Railways, Postal, Canteen, Stores Department, like, and then the public commercial profit taking controlled by the union and state government. Similarly, non-commercial, non-profit taking autonomous bodies, which can be like, let's say, AIMS or any IIMs, IITs, any colleges, which is a non-commercial, autonomous or semi-autonomous body, and then the other authorities and bodies substantially financed from the union or state revenues. These all organizations are governed by the CAG itself, the audit of which will be undertaken by the CAG. Then let's talk about audit of government companies, commercial audit. Government company, government company means what? This only what we just learned about section 2 clause 45 of the Companies Act 2013. So we'll start now with audit of government companies. So do you really think CAG will reach out to all the government companies? There are so many government companies in India. Whether all the audits will be done by CAG? No. So definitely CAG will appoint chartered accountants for the audit of government companies. CAG will appoint chartered accountants, and the auditors of these companies are firm of chartered accountant appointed by the CAG. Appointed by whom? Appointed by the CAG in the case of companies in which government or state government is holding 51% or more, which we already talked about that. And also it is also empowered to comment upon the audit reports of the auditor, which will talk about all this in detail in section 143 subsection 5 subsection 6 and subsection 7 of the Companies Act 2013. Audit board set up in commercial audit. So unique feature of the audit conducted by the IIAAD, which I talked about, is the constitution of audit boards. So these audit boards are what? These are the boards to comprehensively appraisal about what? Appraisal about all the public sector undertaking, how the working is done, whether they are acting or operating effectively or not, efficiently or not, effectively or not, right? So these audit boards includes in among them the experts from various industry, and they will point out, they will report on every issues which is being dealt in the audit of this commercial undertakings and public sector undertakings. So these audit boards associate with them experts, and all these findings and conclusion will be discussed with the management of the PSUs and the controlling ministries. And of course these audit boards have no separate legal entity but work under the supervision and control of the Comptroller and Auditor General of India itself, right? And then the action on audit report, it's nothing but like all the audit reports. Now for all the audit reports they have to take some action. For that matter, to save its time, they have constituted three committees. One is Public Accounts Committee, PAC. One is Public Accounts Committee, another is Estimates Committee, and third one is CPU. So CPU is Committee on Public Undertakings, Committee on Public Undertakings. So we'll quickly go through all the three committees, which can be also asked in MCQs or can also be asked as a 4-mark question. So we have to learn all the points about these committees. Let's see Public Accounts Committee, PAC. So Accounts Committee, all the accounts of the undertakings, central undertakings, directly like the programs like Narega program or National Urea Policy or Uday Yojana. There are so many yojanas, programs which are approved by the president, and there are so many undertakings directly governed by the, like I said you about Fertilizer Corporation of India, Coal India Limited. So these all these undertakings, central undertaking, they will be accounts will be directly discussed under Public Accounts Committee. And similarly other government companies and Maharatna Navratna companies, those accounts will be discussed here in Committee on Public Undertakings. So there is slight difference, and that is how we'll see the points also. See what they are taking. It is also the duty of PSC to examine the statement of accounts of the autonomous and semi-autonomous body, like the what I told you about, like the AIMS or other government autonomous and semi-autonomous bodies, and the audit of which is conducted by the Comptroller and Auditor General of India, and directions of the President, under the direction of the President and the statute of the Parliament. So PSC has to examine all the statement of accounts of the autonomous and semi-autonomous body, and the CPU will do what? CPU will take about the comprehensive appraisal of the evaluation of the performance of the undertaking what? PSU, public sector undertakings, like the government companies, and also about the policies, programs. So we will see, firstly let us see Public Accounts Committee. The Public Accounts Committee, what they have the duty is that money should be disbursed legally on the service or purpose to which they are applied. That is, let's say in the budget they have said that the 1000 crore will be applied in the fertilizer this time, or 1000 crore will be applied in the real estate. So they have this allocation to the budgets, right? So money has to be disbursed legally and with proper authorization, with the sanction should be with the proper authorization. No expenditure should be done without proper authorization, and the, let's say 1000 crore is the sanctioned amount, then that is further be bifurcated into various departments. So each and every department gets the allocation properly or not, in accordance with the provisions made or not. So the reappropriation has been made in accordance with the provisions or not. That is what PAC committee will examine from the reports of the CAG. So the monies were disbursed legally, expenditure was authorized, and of course reappropriation should be made in accordance with the provisions made, which we will call it as, that is which is called as distribution of fund. What we call distribution of funds. So distribution of funds, just remember this: D for distribution, A for authorization, and P for purpose. That is what we'll learn this committee purpose. PAC starts with what? PA. So the memory trick also starts with PA, and it is not C, but instead it is PADS. So what is our memory trick? Pads को examine करो, pads को examine करो. That means what? Examine the pads, like cricket pads or hand pad or whatever pad you can imagine. You have to examine those pad. P for the purpose for which they were legally sanctioned. It should be applied, the fund should be applied for that purpose only. And the authorization, it should be, every expenditure should be done with the proper authorization, either general or specific, it doesn't matter, but it should be authorized. And then the D for distribution of funds should be, reappropriation should be done properly. And then examine means what? Examine the statements of accounts of autonomous and semi-autonomous bodies. So that is what the function of PAC is. Let's come to CPU, Committee on Public Undertaking. So Committee on Public Undertaking exercise the same financial control on the public sector undertaking. Remember this point. These are like directly Maharatna Navratna companies public sector undertaking, as the PAC exercises the same rights, but on public sector undertakings. The function of the PAC are, now what I said, the public undertaking like PSU, Coal India Limited, or IOCL, or ONGC, like these companies. So they'll examine the reports and accounts of Coal India, IOCL, or ONGC. The reports and accounts could be what? BOD report, right? BOD report, or let you can say financial statement. They have to see the board report financial statement of these public sector undertaking, and then this board report financial statement will also get audited. And CAG will give his opinion also. So CAG report will also has to be seen by whom? CAG report is also has to be seen by CPU. That is what, to examine the reports of and accounts of the PSU, and also to examine the reports of the CAG. CAG will examine the reports, will examine the financial statement, will examine the board report, annual report, everything. And this annual report, audit report, both annual report and audit report, both will be examined by whom? Will be examined by CPU. And then there are other points, like they have to also check the autonomy and efficiency of the public sector undertaking, whether they are judiciously using the resources or not, whether they are unnecessarily frivolously wasting the money of the public, and also such other function as from time to time told by the speaker of where? Speaker of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, definitely, right? So speaker also can assign certain tasks to CPU. Apart from that, the three function is like report examination, and examination of report. Two reports: what? Financial statement or other accounts and reports of the public sector undertaking, and one is report of CAG. And thirdly, the efficiency, autonomy, everything has to be checked by the CPU. And fourthly, other function as from the time to time may be assigned by the speaker of Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. And they have to do the comprehensive appraisal and evaluation of the performance, how they are performing. Like the performance audit is also will study, so how they are actually performing, whether they are performing economically or not, efficiently or not, effectively or not. That is what all the policies, programs, or the of these PSUs, whether the policies, program of these PSUs are operating effectively or not. That is what everything has to be done by CPU. So how we'll learn this also? So CPU starts with what? CPU starts with CPT, just like PAD starts with PA. CPU also starts with CPU. So our memory trick will also start with what? CPT. Our memory technique will also start with what? CPT. So what is our memory trick? Our memory trick is, you can see here, CPT का रिपोर्ट आया, CPT report came. CPT, our in our times used to happen CPT instead of CA foundation, CPT. So CPT का report, and report efficiency बहुत निकली means I was very efficient in CPT. So let me tell you also that I scored 60 out of 60 in my account. So that the story I'm telling you about, that CPT report came and I was really efficient in my CPT examination. I am telling this true story, right? So CPT, I scored 60 out of 60, 100% marks in my accounts examination. And therefore what I danced on the speaker. I started on the speaker, the music, and I started dancing on the speaker itself. So CPT report came, report I was really efficient, and therefore I started dancing on the speaker. That is how you can learn all the points of the CPU, and that CPU also starts with CP, and therefore this memory trick will also start with CPT. So CPT ka report, efficiency, and therefore I danced on the speaker. So CPT you will find that comprehensive appraisal, performance, policies, programs, everything you have to check. And 3T for thorough examination. Particularly then report आया. So report 2 points are there for reports. So report of accounts and report of CAG, both report, accounts report, and also CAG report. Efficiency. I was really efficient in my CPT report, and therefore I did what? I started dancing on the speaker, and therefore you have to also, speaker can also assign the task from time to time. So I hope you were able to learn this topic. Also learn with the class itself. If you're not able to learn, just pause, just rewind it back. But do ensure that you are revising and learning with the same. I am making my most sure that you also understand the topic, but at the same time I want you to learn itself in the video itself. So it's very easy. Like PSC starts with PA, so PADS examination, that you have to do. P for purpose, E for A for authorization, and D for distribution of funds. D for distribution, you have to see how it is distributed, reappropriation made as per the provision or not. Authorization means what? Every expenditure should be authorized. And P for purpose, money has been applied for the purpose for which it was sanctioned. And then of course examination of the statement of the accounts of the autonomous and semi-autonomous body. And then CPU means what? CPU is what? Reports of the accounts, reports of CAG. CPT, say for C comes comprehensive appraisal. P for policies, programs, you have to see policies, program, what policy program have been these public sector undertakings have come up with. And then T for thorough examination you have to do. CPT ka report means report of CAG and report of accounts. Efficiency means efficiently. Autonomy, you have to check every aspect of the efficiency as well. And then speaker laga ke dancing. So that is what this some other functions which can be assigned by the speaker from time to time. Let's come on to the last committee of our three committees, estimates committee. So here also estimate committee has to do what? They have to see whether the policy was properly working or not, what we thought, whether it was actually implemented or not, or whether some alternative could have been thought of. I'll give you just an example. This national urea policy, you will come to know if you have heard of it. So urea, what happens is generally they give subsidies on urea. So big urea manufacturers, you will find, they generally get subsidy about what? Subsidy about what? Farm gate rate. So rate is, let's say, 272 rupees from till the till it has reached to farm gate, and till it is reached to market. So market rate is, let's say, 400 rupees, 400 per per bori. So 400 is the rate, and let's say 272 is the farm gate rate. So they'll do what? Government announces subsidized rate, and they'll tell market participants to sell at 272 only, and the remaining amount they will give as a subsidy. They'll give as a subsidy to the market participants, all the big companies. There are so many companies who are into this urea manufacturing. In fact, India comes in top 20 urea manufacturers, right? So 272 rate, they'll tell the market participant to sell at this rate only, and remaining part will be subsidized, will the subsidy as a given to the market participants. So what started happening, it market participant used to inflate this. They'll start, if it is 400 now, they'll say no, it's 450. So you'll have to give difference of 450 minus 272. So they'll get subsidy of this much difference. So they started inflating the cost, the intermediary cost. They started inflating it, and thereby getting more and more subsidy. So it actually was not that effective. They were selling at 272, but instead it was a loss of government only. So what was the alternative? Alternative policy could have been, directly, if you sell at 400, let the farmers buy at 400 only. We'll credit back to the farmers account itself. We'll credit back to the farmers account the remaining subsidy amount. That could happen, like it used to happen in LPG cylinder. If you know LPG cylinder, we get some 50-70 rupees cashback in our statement only. So we buy LPG cylinder, government gives subsidy to us. So there can be different policies, alternative policy. So the policy with like this, whether is it operating effectively, can there be any alternative policy, estimates about how much budget to be appropriated, everything is done by estimates committee. So let's see here. Report what economies, improvements in organization, efficiency, or administrative reforms. Like administrative reform, this is an administrative reform. Instead of giving 450 minus 272 as a subsidy to the market participants and telling them to sell at 272, let them tell to sell at 450 itself, or 400 itself, the market rate, actual market rate, so that they won't inflate the cost. And they will do what? they'll give the subsidy directly to the farmers account, directly, those who are actually in farming. Instead, what used to happen now is that the manufacturers who are not actually into farming industry, they are manufacturing and getting the subsidized, they are selling their product, but instead of that they can directly give subsidy to the farmers account directly, right? So that is an alternative policy. Suggest any alternative policy, if at all there is any administrative reform that needs to be done, any improvements that needs to be done in the organization, in the efficiency that needs to be brought, and examine whether the money is well laid out within the limits like 10,000 crore, 4 lakh crore, whatever is the limit, that money has been properly laid out within the limits, and suggest the form in which the estimates will be presented to the parliament. So suggest also the format has to be suggested by whom? By the estimates committee. To whom? The format will be suggested by the estimates committee. The same format will be submitted in the parliament, presented in the parliament. So these are the 4 points about the estimate committee. These MCQs has already come in the exam. I'm telling you, this is important. Also, directly 4 mark question can also come. Please give us the function of estimate committee or CPU or PAC. So you need to remember all these committees also. Then let's come to CAG role. So CAG role, if you ask CAG directly, if you know, do you know the CAG name right now? It's GC Murmu. GC Murmu, as far as I remember, he was appointed in August. So GC Murmu is the CAG currently. And if you ask him, what is your role? What is your role? Tell me. So he'll tell you what? He'll first kick you, and then he'll tell you are asking me what is my role. My role is the key role. So I'll ask what key role in where key role in where. So I'll tell as a CAG, if I am GC Murmu, I'll tell key role in all the functioning of the financial committee. These all financial committees which you just learned, na, PSE and SCOPU and what, estimates committee, all these committees, all the functioning of this committee, I only play the key role. So I ask like, how do you play a key role? GC Murmu will tell me, I am a friend of them, I'm a philosopher, I guide them. How do you guide them? But how do you guide? As a friend, philosopher, guide, how do you guide? Then I'll tell, as a GC Murmu, form the basis, I only form the basis of the committee is working. So whatever the committee is working, I only form the basis. So I will ask like whether you assist them properly. No, my report itself will assist them. My report itself will assist them. So the reports of CAG will form the basis of the all this committee, financial committee, PAC, estimate committee, COPU committees. Every committee is working. The CAG report itself form the basis. So these three important 3 points. First 3 points. Let's just recapitulate what I asked. I asked directly GC Murmu. So he'll first kick me, and then he'll tell you are asking my role. Let me first kick you, and then he'll tell you, okay, my role is the key role. Key role in where? Key role in the functioning of the financial committee. So I asked, how come? Then they'll say, friend, philosopher, guide. I am the friend of the all these committees. So I asked, how do you then act as a friend? Then he said that my report only acts as the basis of this all these committee. Then there also the other ministries like Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Ministry of Fertilizers and Industry, Ministry of Finance, all these ministries now, they also submit their report to whom? They all this submit their report to financial committees. So financial committees has to now check, how has to now do work on the reports submitted by the ministries now. So they'll go to whom? They'll go to CAG. So CAG, they'll say we don't work here, it's a government company, like it's a government department, we don't work much. CAG, you only take care of all this reports which has been submitted by the ministry. So again, he only scrutinizes the notes which the ministry submit to the committees and helps the committees to check the correctness of the submissions to the committees and facts and figures in their draft reports. And then the financial committees present their reports to the parliament, state legislature with their observation and recommendation. And lastly, in respect of those audit reports which could not be discussed in detail by the committees, so it should not happen that, let's say, if we didn't the financial committees didn't discuss with the PSU, what happens is that PSU has to be discussed with the financial committee, everything they has to submit to the financial committee. Let's say the discussion did not happen properly, proper communication did not happen. So PSU should not get lethargic. They should not think this, okay, this will not, this won't get checked. And therefore, so as to curb this, what we'll do, we'll ask a written statement from all the PSUs, and this written statement forms the basis of the CAG report also. So that in that way it will curb the lethargic of the PSU, lethargicity of the PSU. That is what they are saying. In respect of the audit reports which could not be discussed in detail by the committees, written answers are obtained from the department, from the ministry concerned, and are sometimes incorporated in the reports presented in the parliament or the state legislature. This ensures that the audit reports are not taken lightly by the government, even if the entire report is not deliberated upon by the committee, right? Now let's come out to the object and scope of public sector audit. So I already told you in the starting of the lecture itself, like financial audits, compliance audit, comprehensive audit, performance audit, propriety audit. These are all the types of audit that we have to cover in RCA final this topic. So this is what they are saying, that the scope and extent of the audit is not only restricted to the financial audit itself, but the CAG can also order for the financial audit, compliance audit, performance audit, comprehensive audit, propriety audit. These are all the types of audit. So audit of PSU not constrained just to financial and compliance audit. So what is financial audit? What is compliance audit? What is performance audit? Financial audit is nothing but like the normal financial audit of the financial statements. But compliance audit, we do what? We do regulatory check, regularity check, and one is propriety check. So propriety will concern like, well, let's say the policy of the Narega policy. Narega Act came in 2005. So according to that, the policy was policy has specifically mentioned that you have to give employment to this much in a year. You have to offer employment to this much. You have this budget. You have to come under this, and everything has to be checked whether we are working under the same constraints, whether same under policy, as per the policy, as per the documents and the propriety, whether any frivolous expenditure was done, or that is what we'll check in the compliance part of the law, regulation, regularity, and the propriety. And in the performance, we'll see how effectively it was, how efficient it was, and of course the economy. Efficiently, effectiveness, and the economy. We'll go back in detail about the performance audit. Specifically, it is very, very important in this chapter, performance audit. And then also there is propriety audit. Like we'll also talk about propriety audit also. Comprehensive audit will also talk about organization decisions to be taken by the competent authority. That is, decision should not be like anyone is taking out the decision. It should be properly authorized. I told you what, every expenditure, every decision should be properly authorized. It should be taken by a competent authority only. Either general or specific authorization doesn't matter, but it should be done by a competent authority, either board of director or any other committee which has been set up by the industry, by the enterprise, by the central government, or any other committees. But it should be a proper competent authority, because the funds are of public, and funds are for public, right? So it has to be like that. And then of course, equally important purpose of audit is to help the government assess whether it is a particular that particular industry, or that particular public sector enterprise, it is worth holding or not, whether it is making that social impact or not on the public. And then highlighting the issues of effectiveness, efficiency, and economy of the operations. And lastly, it brings out the fiscal accountability and also the managerial accountability. So fiscal accountability, we already might be remembering uh, inter audit, right? So in inter, you must have learned provision of funds, audit of sanction, audit of compliance, audit of propriety. These are all audit, right? So that is what fiscal accountability comes. And of course, the managerial accountability, that is how effectively, efficiently, and economically you are managing the funds of the company, which is also called as managerial accountability, is also called as efficiency cum performance audit. Let's come into elements of PSU. So basically, there are three elements. One is the parties involved. How many parties are involved? So parties are three parties. So elements are also three, parties are also three. So three parties. So firstly, we'll talk about three parties. So three parties is what? In any audit, or any audit you can take. So in like in normal audit also, there will be an auditor, there will be an auditee, and there will be shareholders, or to any other users of the financial statement, or the users of the auditor's report, right? So intended users of the auditor's report. Responsible party here is what? Management, or auditee, you can say auditee. And then there is the third party auditor. In any audit, just like any audit, there are three parties in the audit of PSU also. Then the second element is the subject matter criteria and subject matter information. Subject matter criteria and subject matter information, these are also three types. Three under third element. Second element is subject matter criteria and subject matter information. And then the types of engagement, there are two types of engagement. One is attestation engagement, and another one is direct reporting engagement. So attestation engagement is like the financial statement audits now. So financial statement audits are like the attestation engagement only, where we give our opinion, we attest our everything, we have attest function like the normal audits. And direct reporting engagement like the comprehensive audit, or let's say you do what, performance audit. These are all what? These are audits of direct reporting engagement, where we are given with certain data. We only have to compile the data, we only have to prepare the data and come out with the information. We have to extract the information out of the data, and then we have to report accordingly. So in attestation engagement like financial audits, we the responsibility of financial statement is of with whom? Is with whom? Is with the management, is with management. And auditor is responsible for checking the financial statement, right? But in comprehensive, or in performance audit, or in, I said, direct reporting engagement, the data has to be compiled into formation by the auditor itself, and by the auditor means of course by the CAG or the assigned person, AAO, assistant audit officer, right? So they will have to see the information, what everything they can extract out of the data, and then they have to accordingly report. So this is particularly very important. Let's see this types of engagement. So attestation engagement is what? Responsible party measures the subject matter. So let me just tell you what is subject matter criteria and subject matter information. Just right beside this, subject matter is nothing but your financial statement. Subject matter, just think about it as financial statement. Criteria, just think about it as AS or Indes. Just think about it as AS or Indes. And subject matter information is, just think about it as audit report, audit report, audit report. Okay, so subject matter information, now it will be very clear to you, the information or condition or activity that is evaluated against a certain criteria. So we have to evaluate now financial statement against AS, whether they are complying with the accounting standard, whether they are complying with the financial reporting framework. That you can also say this as FRF like schedule 3, AS India. This all you have to see. So that is what criteria is. Criteria is are what? Benchmarks which is used to evaluate the subject matter. And thirdly, subject matter information is the outcome of the evaluation. That is the subject matter against criteria. Whatever you evaluate the subject matter against certain criteria, against whether the financial statement complies with the applicable FRF, and the outcome of that is your audit report, is your subject matter information. So let's see in attestation engagement, responsible party measures the subject matter. Subject matter, that is what? Financial statement. So responsible party measures the subject matter against the criteria and presents the subject matter information on which the auditor then gathers sufficient appropriate audit evidence. So sufficient appropriate audit evidence the auditor has to obtain, and not the responsible party. Responsible party, that means what? Management. Management will do what? All the compilation of the subject matter, everything will be done by the management. Auditor has to do what? Or gather sufficient appropriate audit evidence and give his opinion, reasonable report, reasonableness of the report, and express a conclusion. But in direct reporting engagement, it is the auditor who measures or evaluates the subject matter against the criteria. It's not the management, it's not the responsible party, it's not the responsible party. Mark it, this is not responsible party. In the direct reporting engagement, auditor himself measures and evaluates the subject matter against the criteria. But their subject matter criteria was done by, evaluated by the responsible party, measures the subject matter against the criteria, and auditor has just to give his audit opinion. That's it. So the examples I've written, this is really important for your MCQ. Mark this important, because financial audits, they can ask you what is the example of direct reporting engagement, and they'll give you financial audit. Then that is not the correct option. Correct options are performance or compliance audits, right? So these are the major concepts. Three parties, then subject matter criteria and subject matter information, and then of course two types of engagement. Let's come to now principles of PSU audit. So there are of course general principles which you have also must have learned in asset 200. Normally the general principles like ethical responsibility, independence, professional skepticism, professional judgment, due care, quality control, materiality, audit risk, like this general concept, documentation, communication. So just mark this as a reference only. I said 200, professional judgment and skepticism 200, quality control SQC1, SQC1 or 220, audit team and management skill, audit risk which you will find in 3 and 5, 330, materiality 320, documentation 230, communication 260, 265. So these are like the general principles of the audit that will also apply in the audit of PSU. But apart from that, these are the specific principles related to the audit process of the PSU, where you have to plan the audit, you have to then conduct the audit, and then accordingly report. And of course also you have to follow up, because in case of PSU audit, I told you what, the funds are of public, and the funds are of public. So you have given the deficiency report, you have given everything, but then again you have to follow up also whether the deficiency has been removed or not, whether they have worked or not, whether the government is like that only like they were earlier. So that you have to see whether they have improved upon or not. So planning the audit, conducting the audit, and reporting and follow up, you can read the underlying points also. We'll just come to now the audit of government company, section 139 subsection 5 and 7, you might have already know, and section 143 subsection 5, 6, 7. So I'll give you brief about few points regarding audit of government companies, right, which are subject to appointment of audit. Will be done by whom? Will be done by CAG. If you'll go through company audit chapter, you'll see CAG will do in 30 days appointment of all the auditors for whom the government companies auditor, right? So there the auditor will be appointed by CAG within 30 days, and then appointment or reappointment shall be done by CAG, but the remuneration is not done by CAG. Remuneration is guided by CAG, but is decided upon by the individual company itself. So remark the difference. Appointment is done by CAG, but remuneration is decided by the AGM itself. In the individual companies, they'll decide in the AGM itself the remuneration of the auditor as per the guidelines, of course, prescribed by the CAG. So remuneration is not decided by CAG, but is guided by the CAG, and CAG may direct and appoint auditor on the manner in which the accounts of the government company are required to be audited, and of course auditor to submit a copy of the audit report to the CAG of India, and this copy of the report shall include directions, actions, and the impact on the accounts and the financial statement of the company. So whatever directions CAG might have given to the auditor, those direction has been complied with or not, that is to be included in the report. Whether the action which has been prescribed by the CAG, those actions were taken or not, or the actions referred by the auditor, whether those actions, what were those actions, why they were those actions, and the impact, of course, on the financial statement of the company, what are those impacts, that has to be prescribed in this report. And 143 subsection 5, and this is really important for in this chapter: 143 subsection 5, 143 subsection 6, and 143 subsection 7. So report under section 5, subsection 5 is in addition to the reports issued by the statutory auditor. So normal audit report is different, but the report issued under section 143 subsection 5 is specific to the audit of government companies, where they have to issue separate report, which we talked just about this only. The report which shall include directions taken issued by CAG, actions taken thereon, and impacts on accounts and financial statement of the company. So this the MCQ generally comes there, where they will say you that CAG is intervening in the audit report, and the companies, they company auditor do not like the intervention of the CAG. They said that okay, fine, you have appointed us, let me do my own task, let me do my work, you leave me alone. So but the intention of the contention of the auditor is wrong, because CAG can issue the direction, and auditor has to comply with those directions by the CAG, and this report should specifically mention those directions also, and he can also the action taken thereon and the impact on the accounts of the FS. Then 143 subsection 6, clause A and clause B. So if at all the auditor, if at all the CAG is not satisfied with the auditor, then he can assign the auditor, same auditor, or he can assign a separate, he can appoint a separate chartered accountant to do what? To do supplementary audit. So he'll assign a same chartered accountant or a different chartered accountant within 60 days. Mark it as important. MCQ generally comes from here. Within 60 days, supplementary audit can be ordered by the CAG to conduct a supplementary audit of FS by such person or person as he may authorize in this behalf. For this purpose, require additional information to be furnished to any person or person so authorized. And then 140 subsection 6b says what? Any comments which is given by the CAG or as per the supplementary audit report will then have to again be issued to the all those person to whom the audit report or annual report has been given. Annual report under section 136 subsection 1, annual financial statement to whom we have to give under section 136 subsection 1, who all or this person: shareholder, preference shareholder, deposit holders, debenture holders. These all are covered under section 136 subsection 1. So to all this person you have to give the annual financial statement. To the same person you will also have to give now this supplementary audit report. You'll also have to give this supplementary audit report. You will also have to give 136 subsection 1 wale persons placed before the AGM of the company. And then supplementary or test audit conducted by the CAG is in the nature of efficiency come performance appraisal, like the performance kind of audit. And last, the test audit can also be performed under section 140 subsection 1 if still the auditor, the CAG is not at all satisfied with the performance of the audit function of the auditors, then it can also test audit the auditors, and it can also the test audit the reports generated by the auditors. So CAG may by order cause the test audit to be conducted on the accounts of the government companies. Financial audit, let's come to the financial audit. So like it's just like a normal audit. What we do, express an audit opinion on the FS and enhances the degree of confidence of the intended users of the financial statement. So basically it's just not the normal audit. So compliance audit, I told you what it comprises of two criteria. Compliance audit is concerned with regularity and propriety. Regularity like the adherence of the subject matter to the form criteria. Let's say Narega, the criteria was 1000 people should be employed in this state, particularly every month. This is the minimum which we have to give funds to them. Like the employment, this has to be done. If they are not employed, then we have to give the daily wages. Still we have to give daily wages, so the employment has to be generated. All this criteria, whether it is meeting it or not, the regularity we have to check with that, whether the criteria has been met or not by as per the policy document, as per the records, as per the act, as per the guideline issued by president or parliament. Similarly, propriety, we have to consider the propriety element also, whether the general principle of the sound financial management and ethical conduct of the public officials, we also have to consider the compliance audit. Under that, propriety element also has to be considered. So what is propriety element? Propriety element is nothing. If you ask me, just consider this, just think like this. If you were the person, if you were the person, instead of government funds, if the funds were of yourself only, if the if you would have expended or not with your own personal funds, the same expenditure whether you would have done if the funds were your own rather than the public funds. That is what you have to think, and then that is the entirety in the concept of the propriety. That is what the propriety element is. So regularity and propriety both has to be considered in the compliance audit. And then compliance audit is generally conducted, either you can do individually, it's like normal, individually you can conduct the compliance audit, or you can do it with the financial statement audit, or you can also do it with the performance audit. So everything you can just, it's a complementary or as an individual, it's just like a dosa you eat in South Indian dosa, you can also individually you can eat, but also you can eat it with sambar or chutney. It's just like this can be a sambar, or and also performance audit like chutney, coconut chutney, and individually also you can eat, individually also you can eat, right? So performance audit, let's come to this very important topic, performance audit.